Show is the feelings on the president and impeachment on both sides has swayed very little. Lawmakers in Washington are home for the holidays after 2 weeks of impeachment testimony, often prefaced by the word bombshell. But while most bombshells have the power to move objects in earth, these have done little to move public opinion.
Not really, no. So we're seeing polls, one just came out from CNN, lines up exactly with approval ratings for President Trump, which have been between about 40 and 45%.
That Democrats support and Republicans oppose is evident in the impeachment television ratings, with most Americans turning to Fox or MSNBC to watch.
We've seen for years audiences have been going to the stations that they think are the ones that support their view. It's the echo chamber, because at the end of the day, we want to hear what we like to hear.
And over the holidays, what a lot of relatives love to hear is the sound of their own voice, reciting verbatim the talking points of their respective side of any given political argument.
It's getting worse.
Lori Long of Baldwin-Wallace University specializes in work-life management strategies. Over the last several years, she's offered this holiday dinner advice to family and friends.
Is to kind of think about it as a workplace event. We talk a lot about workplace civility, and I think that transferring that to the family event makes a lot of sense.
So talk to your Uncle George like you would talk to a coworker in front of your boss. Long also suggests having ground rules in place so that if a conversation gets heated, you've already agreed beforehand you're going to set it aside. And if you're the host of the party, have some diversions in place so that if a conversation starts to get heated, you can move it towards something less toxic, like football. Or maybe not. Browns, of course, going for a sweep of the Steelers, something they haven't been able to do in 31 years. But it was also something they did back in 1969, 50 years ago, the year before the AFL-NFL merger. I bring it up because many Northeast Ohio service members that year had to follow the progress of the season from afar in Vietnam. And it was 50 years ago this week that the old Wixie 1260 looked to bridge the gap between Hanoi and home.
It's the Duker, Larry Morrow on Wixie 1260.
Larry Morrow is one of the most familiar figures in Cleveland radio history, but as successful as the Duker and Wixie 1260 was in 1969, he said the station lacked a certain respect in the community. So one day he recalls getting a visit from the station manager.
He said, Larry, how would you like to go to Vietnam? And it was the height of the war. And I said, why would I want to go to Vietnam?
It pointed out that there were more than 200 people from Greater Cleveland serving in Vietnam, and they wanted Morrow to go overseas to interview them and bring back their holiday greetings to air between Thanksgiving and Christmas. He recalled vividly immediately after landing in Vietnam, being recognized by a serviceman from home.
And he said, oh, you're the Duker, Larry Morrow from the World. What are you doing here?
In all, Morrow would interview 55 local service members, interviews he thought were long lost, until 2 years ago when we found a few to play for him, hearing them for the first time in decades.
1:36 Wixie Thanksgiving time as Wixie brings the boys home from Vietnam.
Hi, Duker. My name is PFCRL Jacobson. I graduated from Canton McKinley High School. Mom, Dad, and Helen, I want to wish you a very happy Thanksgiving, and I hope to be home by Christmas.
Boy, that's going to be nice, isn't it, Russ?
Sure is.
Is this your first Thanksgiving away?
No, it's my third.
How long have you been in Vietnam?
18 months.
Want to play a song for your girl back home in Canton?
I'd like to. Every day with you, girl.
Boy, I tell you, Ross was so delightful to talk with, and wanted to play a song for Eleanor and his mother and father.
Well, that's fun to listen to.
After that story ran last Thanksgiving, we heard from Jim Vauquer, a veteran who it turns out was not only interviewed by Morrow, but he was the one who recognized him when he landed in Vietnam.
Well, it was a complete shock. I mean, I never expected to, although I ran into guys I knew, I never expected to see the Duker sitting there, you know, a famous disc jockey, you know, from home, sitting there and going, what, looking for people to interview. It's like, wow, this is crazy.
Vauquer, by the sheer chance of that meeting, would be the first one Morrow would interview, and his was the first interview to air November 28th, 1969, 50 years ago this week.
Wow.
That is amazing.
We decided to bring the two of them together to go over their memories, Morrow recalling the hurdles they had to jump through to even make the trip happen.
And this was my note from the Congress of the United States saying, we cannot get you there.
I didn't have any problem getting there.
Yeah.
Morrow made each person he interviewed a promise that when they got home, he would take them to lunch, never forgetting the ones who didn't have the opportunity, killed in action. So when the Vietnam Memorial Wall was dedicated in Washington in 1982, Morrow was there.
And I reached up and touched their names and I said, I'm here for our lunch. I kept our agreement.
Morrow and Beaucaire, as it turned out, never had their lunch, but now 50 years after their chance meeting in Vietnam, they have a friendship born out of a trip that Morrow said forever tied him to the city.
Vietnam was the one occasion and the one part of me that kept me here forever in the hearts of Clevelanders.
With Democracy 2019, I'm John Kosich. Enjoy your Sunday.